Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Whoa, 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 we got another video. Oh my God. Hold on. We have got to turn that off. It's gonna go again. Welcome back. Whoa, 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 we got another video. Oh my God. Hold on. Oh man. Here we go. We're in business now, everybody. This is your professional television studio right here and now. So everybody, welcome back to the Royal Talens Creator Studio Live. My name is Jeff Olson. I am the Art Education Director for Royal Talens North America, and I'm going to be your host today. If you reside in the US or Canada, make sure to type in "I love Cobra Oils" in the comments, and you'll be eligible to win your very own set of Cobra, which will be awarded at the end of this broadcast. Well, thank you everybody for returning. It's great to see everyone. Super excited for today's show. We have a wonderful and talented guest for you today. She is recognized for her figurative plein air work and for her dynamic palette knife painting. For all you guys who love a lot of texture, you're going to love today's show. She's exhibited throughout North America, and her work is included in many notable collections, including the Grand Teton National Park Museum, the Manello Museum of American Art in Orlando, and the Bennington Museum in Vermont. She's won numerous awards for her plein air and studio work, including the President's Choice Award in the American Impressionist Society exhibition. She is a member of many prestigious organizations, including being a signature member of the American Impressionist Society, a signature member of PAPNM, that's the Plein Air Painters of New Mexico, a member of the Plein Air Artists of Colorado, and the Oil Painters of America. She has been featured in Southwest Artist magazine and Plein Air magazine. Her painting was featured on the cover of Plein Air magazine in 2020 with an 8-page article called Adventures with the Palette Knife. She's published 2 books titled The Art of Conversation, which includes 42 paintings and her inspirations and thoughts of conversation in contemporary life. There's a second book, Manhattan Scenes, which is really wonderful as well. You got to check them both out. She has three instructional videos, including palette knife painting with Michele Byrne. She exhibits her work at Legends of the West Fine Art in Santa Fe, as well as Reinhardt Fine Art in Charleston, South Carolina, and James R. Ross Fine Art in Indianapolis, Indiana. She teaches workshops in her studio, or new studio, in Santa Fe, New Mexico. She also will be teaching workshops in Florida, Hudson River Valley, New York, and France in 2026. And she's currently offering mentorships and has an online recorded class as well. So everybody, please join me in welcoming Michele Byrne. Michele, how's it going? There we go.
Hey, I made it.
Made it. I had multiple screens of our show. It was quite entertaining as they were all playing over the top
Oh,
of
really?
each other.
I heard some echoes. Yeah, I was wondering what was going on.
Yeah, that was played. I had muted one, but the other one was hiding from me. That was funny. But we are figured it out. We're ready to go, and I'm excited about the show. So where are you at today?
I am in my new studio in Santa Fe.
I love it. It looks so clean and neat and organized.
Well, it's not always this way. I did straighten it up a little bit.
I love it. I remember being down there. It wasn't that long ago. I actually had a chance to visit, and you were teaching a class that was super fun to be able to see it in person.
Yeah, I love it. I really do. I'm not here enough, but I'll be here for a couple months now. So,
Awesome. Awesome. I know it always feels like we're on the road a lot these days, doesn't it?
yes, yes.
Yes, after being sequestered during COVID, now we're back at it and very much in demand, which is exciting. It's great to be out with people in person. You can't beat that.
Yes, it is. Very much.
You moved to Santa Fe not long ago, right?
Actually, it'll be 5 years in July.
Years, no way.
Yeah,
Seems like it
July
was
6th.
yesterday.
I know. I can't believe it either. I've been in my house. It'll be 5 years in December. So yeah, I know. Time really flies.
That is crazy. Because you were in Pennsylvania before, correct?
Correct. Yes.
That is so fun. So how's Santa Fe treating you?
It's good. It's springtime now and the sun's been shining and it's very warm, which I love. And people think of Santa Fe as like all brown, but there's beautiful colors. And I have like 5 different fruit trees in my yard and they all were blooming. They're done now, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like it. It's very, very, very different from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, yeah. This is a beautiful time of year there and everywhere. I mean, I'm in Seattle and we have all the cherry blossoms and all the
Yeah,
flowers are coming out. My backyard is already a jungle.
yeah,
Back to life. So got to get to work on that pretty soon here.
exactly.
We are getting some great comments. It's great to see folks here. Super exciting. Super exciting. So what we're going to do today is I got a few more questions for you, just a short interview, and then you were gracious enough to send some images of some recent paintings, and we're going to take a look at those together in the slideshow. But most exciting, I think, is going to be the demo. So you recorded a demo, and we're going to all watch that together. Michelle's going to kind of walk us through what's happening. We'll be able to pause that and answer questions as we go through. I will also be looking at the comments and we will do our best at the end to kind of come back and make sure we've answered everybody as well. So why don't we go ahead, Michelle, just a couple quick things that I wanted to talk about before we start sharing the images of work, and that is Cobra Oil. So you've been a proponent of the Cobra Water Mixable Oils for a while. How did you get introduced to them?
Well, I think it was 2009. I remember that for some reason. And I was doing a plein air event in Vermont, one that they don't have anymore. I think it was Bennington. And I just decided I was gonna, well, I got the Cobras because my mother had cancer and I was painting at the time in my house. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to take any chances. So I researched it and I just bought a whole set. And that's all I took with me to that plein air event. And I didn't even notice a difference. And Charlie Hunter was there that year too. So I was kind of talking to him. Of course, he paints completely different than I do. But yeah, that's when I switched. And that's pretty much primarily what I use. Like I have a lot of traditional oil paints that I mix in with them now and then. But mostly that's all I've been using since 2009. So that's a pretty long time, yes.
And working with the palette knife, what's that experience like?
Well, the reason I like the Cobra is they're so creamy. Like I don't need to use any medium or anything. They're very creamy and they flow really easy. And I just really like them. And I enjoyed painting in my house without having to worry about solvents. And now I have my own studio, which I could have solvents, but it's still attached to my house and I'm painting in it every day. So I'd rather not have, and my mother's still alive. So she's 89.
Oh, that's awesome.
Way back when she had cancer. Yeah. But yeah, so I really like them. And I can tell that they've come a long way since then, too. First of all, there are a lot more colors than
Mhm.
you did. And some of the mediums, I don't really use many mediums, but in the beginning, I didn't like some of them. But I think you've improved them a lot, too.
Yeah,
So,
some new formulas are out, and then there are additional ones as well that were introduced last year, and they've been super fun. I really am enjoying the thinner,
yeah,
which is for folks who maybe don't want to be using water, which can slow down the drying time sometimes if you're using a lot of it. So the thinner can be added in those early layers, and it dries really quickly. Acts more like a solvent acts with a traditional oil than water does. So it really has been a great addition, and there are several others as well.
and another thing I love is I travel a lot, and I was teaching last year in Key West, and a lot of my students have traditional oils, and one woman spilled her canister of Gamsol, and she was standing on a plank over the water, so all of the Gamsol went like in the bay where we were painting, and then she was like, "Does anybody have any?" And I was like, "No, I don't have any." So like if I spill it, I can just go fill up the water wherever I have water. I've already used my drinking water, if I spilled too much. So it's really nice to not have to worry about that when you're flying, especially. Yeah.
For sure. It's super convenient. I mean, I think that most often people are coming to me with questions about water mixable oils for health reasons. The second is environmental, and then the last is just is so much more convenient for a lot of folks, whether they're painting in a shared space or traveling, like you said. It's just nice not to have to worry about the solvents. And
Right.
the Cobra, like you said, are so rich and creamy and buttery, as are the Rembrandts. They kind of have an identical working property or behavior that's really nice for both of those paints.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, you gave me some great images. So what I'm going to do now is share my screen, folks. You're going to see presentation come up, and I'm gonna make that larger, and let me know, Michelle, when you can see it.
Yes, I can see it.
Perfect. So tell us about this painting.
Okay, so this was my first painting of the year. It was Christmas Eve in Santa Fe, and they have this thing called the Farolito Walk. It's those bags with candles in them. In Pennsylvania, we call them luminaries, but here they call them farolitos. So I love to paint figures and shadowy figures. So this is a 30 by 30, and I started it, and then I went to Key West for 7 weeks. So I like kind of doing that, doing a painting and then leaving, because then I'll come back and I'll go, oh, well, it needs this, it needs that.
Yeah.
So just this week, I glazed over some of the distant figures to make them look more distant. I'm trying to make my paintings a little more atmospheric than I typically do. So I think it's finished, but I'm not sure. But yeah, so that's the first one of the year. And then when I came home, I think I finished it.
I love that. This one has some really wonderful abstract qualities, especially in the trees in the back there, how bright and wonderful the light's kind of coming across. It's really fun to watch.
Yeah, so sometimes I just paint things, but this one I decided to I did a little I don't know, 8 by 8 value painting in just black and white. And then I did 2 different triads, and I like the second one. So I think this one was just phthalo blue, cadmium yellow deep, and primary magenta. It was just those 3 colors. And I was able to do all this, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Because sometimes my colors are all over the place. So I'm trying to relieve myself of that issue by not using as many colors. So that's this was an experiment, but I really liked it, and I want to do more. Lots of layers, lots of big painting scrapers I used, and all kinds of other tools. So
yeah,
that's
great textures. I always love that in your painting.
Yeah, so that's more the direction I want to go.
I love the primary magenta in the Cobra. It's such a versatile red.
I love that color. I hardly even use the madder. The madder lake is like alizarin, and I hardly even use it. I have it there, but I mostly use the primary magenta because it's kind of like quinacridone rose, and it's a lot more punchy.
Yeah, it's a fun color. Really nice neutral red. So this must just be from your time in Florida.
Yeah, so after I did that first painting, I packed up all my stuff. I think I left January 24th, and I drove to Florida, and I taught 4 different workshops, the Lighthouse Arts Center, Naples, Key West, and then Apalachicola. And what happens when I get to Key West, it happens every year. I get so excited because I have a lot of friends, and I paint with my friends.
Yeah.
And colors are crazy bright. And, sometimes I come home and I think, oh, wow, yeah, what was I thinking? But sometimes I let it go. And a few of the ones, which I'll show you one later, I totally scraped it down because I was like, yeah, that's just too much. But this one I thought was okay. This one I started in one of my workshops. And then I didn't have time to finish it, but I finished it later. And that's the famous beach in Zachary Taylor Park, State Park in Key West. But they always have green umbrellas there, which I don't like green umbrellas. So I kind of moved the umbrellas around and created my own composition.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, I feel the beach in this painting.
That one was 12 by 16, and I've been trying to capture the glimmer on the water, and it's very difficult.
Yeah, but it has that kind of noon, just intense light, midday kind of feel to it. Yeah, I think it works really well.
Thank you. Oh, this was the one then. So a friend of mine wanted to paint together. So he picked a spot that he knew was close to me because I ride on my bicycle to paint. But when I got there, I didn't really like it. So we painted in the morning, and I brought the painting home, and I thought, this is really boring. It was just blue sky, blue water. It just was really, and I had the couple standing there, but it was really boring. So I turned it into a sunset. Because I had been painting sunrises and sunsets the whole time I was gone. And I was like, you know what? I know how to do those. I'm just going to make this a sunset. So I like it 1,000 times better. And this is just a 12 by 12.
Oh, it's super fun. I love the reflections in the water from the sky.
Yeah, that one has a lot of texture, maybe too much, but.
Oh, no, I don't think so. It's kind of like the focal point, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yes.
This is fun.
Yeah, this was my very last painting in Key West. The studios at Key West was having like an event, and they asked plein air painters to come out. And I should have been driving and leaving that day, but I couldn't pass up the opportunity. And I love that boat. It's a Florida coaster, they're called. And evidently, because everyone's very talkative down there, this was on Stock Island. And one of the guys that was working on a boat said the couple that owned that used to live in it. So it's a really, really funky part of Key West. It's an island a little bit north of the city of Key West. So I had a really good time. And then I knew I had to leave, and my friend wanted to eat lunch. So I just kind of slapped in the front, the whole bottom half. And like, that's my favorite part, is like, because I was in a hurry, I kind of knew what to do, and I just rushed really fast. And then I didn't touch that one at all when I came home, because I like it, and then I sold it. So I was like, okay.
That's fantastic. I love the spontaneity in the water. I mean, you can tell you're having a good time putting all those colors in there.
Yeah, and I also design. I mean, I really designed my paintings so that that orange, the reflections go right up to that orange ball, and then the ball has the diagonal that goes over on the boat. You know, so I'm always thinking about how these things are designed, even when I'm doing it plein air. So I was happy with that one. That was like a 16 by 12.
16 by 12. That's going to be in the demo, everybody. Michelle's shared or is going to share with you some of the compositional things that tools that she uses, which are really fun to see.
Oh, so this was a pretty crazy one. I met another friend to paint. This is Five Brothers. It's a really local coffee shop, and it's I don't even know how to explain it, but it's a really fun place. So my friend got me a cup of coffee, which I don't normally drink. So I was like super wound up. I love the shadows. And this one, I'm still debating if I want to scrape it down, because I put like everything but the kitchen sink in there. I put a rooster flew in. Oh, got to put the rooster in. Then another rooster. Oh, got to put that one in. And then by the time I was done, I was like, what on earth was I thinking? Like, I mean, I still like the design. The shadows bring you down to the people, but I probably won't scrape it down, but I think it's a bit much.
I love all the energy in it, though, from every direction, from the power, telephone power lines there, and then the shadows from the windows, and just, yeah, it's really intense. I just feel the painting vibrating.
I'll probably keep it like that for that reason, because another one that I did of a different coffee shop, I scraped it down and redid it, and I posted both versions, and half the people like the old one and half the people like the new one. So
Yeah, the colors are really fun too. I love that bright kind of light yellow, whites on there.
yeah, that was a 12 by 16 also.
Nice.
And then this was another boat in Key West. It's called the American Schooner 2.0. So it was a super famous boat. I always talk to the people on the boats before I decide to paint them, because I've already painted boats and then they leave the dock. So I went and talked to the guy. He's like, oh no, our tour is until 1 o'clock. And he gave me the whole story. So it was a really famous boat that won a lot of World Cup races, I guess. And this is a rebuilt version of it. So a man bought this painting that was really into that particular boat and knew the whole story of it. So I was really happy with the painting too. And sometimes I have to decide, like, do I want to sell it, or do I want to save it for a competition? But in the economy right now, if somebody wants to buy a painting, I'm going to sell it. So that's my new plan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love the composition in this one, especially the diagonals that you got with the clouds coming down and back into the water. Yeah, it really is a dynamic.
Thank you. Well, diagonals are really important. Diagonals are your friends. That's what I always teach my students. So the clouds were not like that, but I made them come down at that angle to bring your eye down to the boat.
Yeah, works really well.
Oh, and then last year when I came back from Key West, I didn't know what to paint. I was kind of depressed because it was cold and windy here, and the crows were sitting in my yard like all the time. So this one was sitting on the wire in front of my house. So this obviously was not plein air, but I read a couple books about crows, and they're super intelligent creatures. And I used my dynamic symmetry grid for the background, because the background was just a blue sky. and he was sitting on a wire, so I had to make up the rest. But to help me just make up a background, I used the grid, which you can kind of see where the grid lines in on there. And then just last week, I was listening to PBS or NPR, I think it was, and they were saying that, and I kind of knew this, that crows can see the shapes of things. Like they can take a kid's game and pick the square and put it in. They can put diamond in the
I
diamond.
read that same article. That was
Yeah.
fascinating.
I was like, oh my God, this is perfect because it's shapes and it's a crow and they're super smart. I mean, when I try to photograph them, I just get a little close to the window and they're gone. So Jeff and I were talking about earlier how he feeds them. So I was thinking maybe I should start feeding them because they stopped coming here. I don't know why, but I want them to come back.
Put out some food and they will be your friend.
So I'm still learning the difference between a crow and a raven because some of the ones in my yard are huge. So I think those are the ravens. I've kind of learned the shapes of their tails and
yeah, they have a shorter, stockier beak, the ravens do too.
Yeah, so I'm still learning that, but it's been really fun and I want to paint more of them as well.
Yeah, crows are fun.
And then this is a Manhattan scene. I pretty much used to make my living when I lived in Pennsylvania on rainy street scenes in New York with American flags, but then I kind of stopped for a while. And my gallery in Indianapolis wanted more, so I just did 3 new ones. That's one of the new ones, but I like the atmosphere of this one. And the same with the diagonals, are still working on this one. And I was just really happy with that one.
What's the scale of this?
That is 18 by 12. So it's actually like most standard sizes are not conducive to dynamic symmetry, but 18 by 12 is. So it's a little bit taller than the 12 by 16. And it gives it more drama, I think, because of the height of it.
Yeah, it's close to the golden.
Yes, it fits in that, yes.
No, it's really wonderful. I mean, I've seen several of your paintings like this, and they're always exciting to kind of sit and explore.
Yeah, and I'm excited. I'm going to New York in October for Kathy Anderson's birthday. And
Yay!
Yeah. So I'm excited to go back. I haven't been there since COVID, which is unbelievable.
Yeah. No, I love visiting New York, and the fall is a great time to go too.
Yeah, I'm excited. And then this is an old one from 2018. So I did a whole series of women from different nationalities. And when I think I have 18 paintings in my house from different women from different countries. And this one I did as a self-portrait. And the meaning was that at the time I was going to Key West, it was like a snowbird kind of thing. And I forget what this one's called. On a Winter's Day, it's called, but it's part of that whole theme. And I did this with Cobra too, but lots of layers and lots of palette knife. And I think I used cold wax on the top. And I was always really, really happy with this painting. And somebody wanted to buy it and I said no. So I keep it in my living room to look at because I want to go more in that direction. I just had a model stand built for my studio and I want to start inviting artists to come. And I just haven't set that up yet, but I really do love painting portraits. So that's why I included that one because it's one of my favorites.
What's the inspiration for the pattern?
Well, the theme of my whole, I had a show in 2019 called The Fabric of America from a Woman's Perspective. So like, you've heard that saying, we're all a different color thread of one human fabric. It's a universe. We're all part of the same thing. So it was kind of my way of protesting immigration issues that we were having. And that was way back in 2018. And now it's a big issue again. So I want to redo that. So the patterns in the back were the theme of the fabric of America. And all the women are from different nationalities. So I really want to, and I have a 60 by 60 painting in my house with the same kind of theme. But I finished it. Then COVID happened. I had a show at a local college, Alvernia College in Pennsylvania. And my plan was to have it travel to different colleges, get conversation. And then COVID happened. And then I just lost all my steam. So I want to get it back though. And I think about it all the time. But for now.
Yeah, the pattern is really interesting. And, it's got all sorts of things that I'm seeing in it. One thing I thought of was Klimt right? And all the beautiful geometry and some
Oh yeah,
and
he was a big inspiration for
yeah.
this, and yeah, and I can kind of see how it would tie in with what you paint, Jeff, because you paint a lot of designs and things like that. And I would just get lost in the fabric, and it was a
Yeah.
totally different way for me to paint, and I want to explore that again more often. So I won some acrylics, and I want to start experimenting with the acrylics underneath, and then using the Cobra on top of them.
Nice, nice. I think that is the last image. So I'm going to stop the share there. And then we're going to, let me actually, before we get into the video, I wanted to check the questions and see how everyone's doing. And I did see your message there, Catherine. I will send you some more information. Sorry that we haven't been able to connect. Catherine was our winner last week, and we haven't
Ah,
connected yet to get that information out to her. So we want to make sure we get into that. We had some fun hellos. It is just great. No questions yet, though. So they're
okay.
coming. I see some I love Cobra in there. Got to get a
Oh,
couple
good.
of those. Got to get more of those so we can give away some paint.
That's right.
All right, so let's go ahead and I will queue up the video now. And this is going to be really fun. You guys are going to really enjoy this. All right, so here we go. So jump in whenever you would like.
Okay, yeah. So this was a photo that I kind of cut and pasted a lot of things in
I'm gonna
Photoshop.
go back to that real
Okay.
quick here. There we go.
Yeah, so I cut a photo of the woman to the left and pasted her in there, and I made the buildings taller, and I put under the archway, I made it lighter. And so I photoshopped the photo to how I wanted it to look. So
Okay.
that's the photo. I even put in clouds from a different photo that come down at an angle towards the guy because he's more of the focal point.
Do you do that very often? Play around with images in Photoshop before you paint them?
I do it a lot. And now, through my mentorship, I was kind of forced to learn Procreate. And my son, he's a graphic designer, and he was like, oh, mom, just do this, do that. So now I love Procreate. So I've been using that, and it's so easy to manipulate things and put them in layers and change things. I copied her from one picture and put her in this one. So yeah, I do a lot of that. Yes.
Oh, it's a fun process for sure. Oh, I have Procreate as well. So tell
And
us a little bit about the grid we're looking at here.
yeah, so I put the grid on top, and this is only 2/3 of the dynamic symmetry grid. I could also have put a square in there with all the angles, but I've been trying to keep it more simple. But basically, you can see how some of the angles follow the grid. And then right where the cross is where I put the man. And then the woman, I put at the other cross. So the idea is that the angles and the lines go to points that create energy points. So those are two energy points. And she'll be more subtle because she's in the shade. And their heads will line up. I'll talk about that probably the next slide. But those are some of the things. When I go out plein air painting, like I don't usually put the grid on, but it's still in my head where that grid is. And sometimes I put the grid on, but so I was just explaining this grid system to the Pastel Society of New Mexico, and that's when I started this demo. But here you can see the line. So this, I did a value study in black and white, and then I put it in Procreate and added the clouds. So everything's very rough and loose, but it still was enough to help me figure out how I wanted it. And see how the darks that go down the right, across the bottom, and up the left, they kind of frame the painting.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, a CW Monday class I took, he said it's good to keep your corners dark so your eye doesn't like fly or drift off the page. So I always kind of try to do that. So that was my little value study. It was probably 3 inches by 2 inches. And then this was the beginning of my demo. So on Saturday, I did a demo for the Pastel Society of New Mexico, and we'll have a link to that demo of how I got to this point. And then this sat on my easel from Saturday till I think Monday. I finished the painting. So then you can see my process. But this was just underpainting with transparent oxide red, and I usually use Viridian or ultramarine blue with it. And I draw it all in, and then I was starting to add some color when I ran out of time. but this is a 14 by 18.
Okay. Keep going here.
Okay, so then I brought it back to my studio and recorded how I went back in and put some of the darker darks in using a brush and a knife, and then I put the clouds in, and it just kind of shows my process of how I worked on this one. I always put the darks in first, and I used to keep the sky for last, but I don't do that anymore. Skies and clouds have really always been difficult for me, and now I live in the place of beautiful skies, so I have to work on that. Okay, then the next step, I was mixing up the Adobe color, which is also a really hard color to mix up, and it takes like lots of layers. But what I like about the palette knife and doing lots of layers is, like, sometimes I'll scrape things off and put them back on, but it's the layers that you can still feel them, and it makes it more impressionistic. So, then here, I was showing how I used transparent oxide red with a little ultramarine and a little bit of white. And then I used the painting medium, which I was trying to show that, but I don't have it in there. And I use a really thin rigger and spin it around in a big pile of paint. This is how I do fine details at the end, but I was kind of jumping ahead to show you how I can do trees. So if I just lay the brush down and let it organically float around on its own. I'm not like trying to match any particular tree. I'm just like letting the brush do the work. Then I have to dip it back in because it's picking up white paint and just do more. And that's also how I put the highlights on my figures usually. But when I did this demo, I had misplaced my favorite little rigger. So this one's a little bigger than the one I'm used to, but they're watercolor brushes, very long and very thin. And I like using them for trees and highlights because you can put a lot of paint on it and it just lays on top with a light touch. If I use an oil painting thin brush, it kind of digs in and makes mud. So the watercolor riggers or liners, whatever they call them, are my favorite for details like that. And then I also put the little chimney top up there. It's like a metal thing that most of the chimneys have here. So sometimes I struggle, should I use a paintbrush or should I use a knife? But generally I just use whatever's easiest and is going to get the job done. I'm not a strict total palette knife painter. And then I think I'm going to put some highlights in with my knife. So I scrape off some of it and just push really hard. So I got too much on, but then I can scrape it off. And what's nice too about thick paint is I can steal some of the blue that I had there very thick and use it as a palette to put more blue back into my painting.
Fun to watch.
So a lot of people think that they need little tiny knives to do little details, but I pretty much use this knife for everything. It's 3 inches long. It's very flexible. It's an RGM number 30. And if I want a small knife, I just scrape the paint off the back of it and just have paint on the tip of it. So I can use it as a small knife or a big knife. And it's pretty much the only knife I use, unless I use big spatulas and scrapers. And sometimes
versatile style, isn't it? I like that palette knife as well.
Yeah, it's just like my favorite. So when people come to class and they have other ones, I get like, oh, you didn't bring the one I thought. So I try to bring along extras and they all go, oh yeah, this one's much better. Because some brands are super stiff, but this one isn't. So
there was a question. You paint mostly wet into wet?
yeah, pretty much, except for like that last one I showed you with the Farolitos and my portrait. If it's a studio painting, I might do layers, but plein air is wet and wet. And usually at home, it's wet and wet too. Because you can't drag the knife across the wet paint, the dry paint in the same way as you can with the wet paint. It does different things. So here's a close-up of me putting the man in. So I put dark paint on and I put the shape. Oops. Yeah, I made his head too small, I guess. I was trying to make it bigger. So I don't really stare at the photograph. I kind of let the knife do whatever it does. Like if the knife did something there and it looked more like a woman, I'd make it a woman. But I just kind of let the knife and the paint dictate what the figures are going to look like, as long as I have the proportion correct. So I put the darks in, and then I mix up a skin tone. I guess I'm still doing the legs. My skin tones are always like, I had taken that workshop with Ken Oster years ago, and he said, make the skin orange. Because if you make it the color of your skin, they're going to look like ghosts. So for this one, since I didn't want him too bright, I put orange and some alizarin and a little bit of transparent oxide red. So I just put a little dab on the tip of my knife and put that on there. So then I thought, oh, it looks like he's looking at the woman, which I kind of like. That wasn't the original plan. I like just one dab for his shirt. I try not to go crazy with it, because then it'll look too overworked. And like there, I just put a huge blob on. So I took that back off. And so it's a lot of going back and forth. And that's what I think gives my figures more energy, is because I'm not staring at a photograph and trying to paint, especially plein air. Like the people, they are not still. So I've learned to have like this photographic memory where when a person walks by, I take a mental snapshot and then I try to. So there was a white dot there. I don't know why, but I put his hand there. Now it almost looks like he's holding something that's light, but I kind of like leaving it more mysterious so that the viewer can make up the story. You know, like, is that his iPhone? Is it a bottle of beer? I don't know. So,
I've watched you paint these figures like this before, and I'm always amazed at how little bit of information you provide, and the whole thing kind of comes to life.
yeah, so here, since I didn't have my correct brush, that's way too thick. Like I was like, oh man. So I just went back and scraped a lot of it off, because that's just too thick. But a lot of times the little accidents do cool stuff. So I always tell my students, don't paint really fast with a knife. Just put it down and look at it a while. Sometimes you do really cool stuff with a knife that ends up being something you didn't plan, but you like it. So there, I wasn't totally happy with him, but I just stopped and moved on and moved put some of the sunlit walls on and the funky adobe shapes. And I wanted the shadow to be a lot lighter than I had on the underpainting. So the sunlit area I made very pink at the top left, because it's kind of more atmospheric perspective, and then it gets lighter as it goes away. And here, I really, really lightened up the shadow, because I didn't want it to be such a harsh shadow. I tend to paint too dark, so I'm always like lightening things up. But luckily, with oil paint, it's easier to lighten something than it is to darken something. So yeah, it's better to have it too dark and lighten it than it is to have it too light and darken it. So there was some writing up over the arch there in my favorite color, which is teal. So I just kind of like, I'm not going to try to spell out what it said. I don't even remember what it said, but if this place is in Taos, very close to the plaza, and I'm sure it's a famous thing, but I wasn't worried about spelling out each word. I just wanted to make it, first, two things. I wanted to dress it up because it is the focal area. And another reason is I wanted to bring more of that teal in, because I have it in the back doorway. I have it on the window to the right, and I want some of it there as well. So, and I really don't fuss with that, but it looks like writing, but you can't read it, and that's okay. And then the woman, she's kind of thin and ghostly right now. So then I was gonna try to get her on. And if I put their whole head in without their face, that creates their hair as well. So then when I go back, I don't have to put the hair on. I just put the face in the middle. So that's kind of my thinking. And that scratch that I did with my fingernail, I decided it kind of looked like an arm, so I kept it there. And I want to make her look kind of old fashioned with like an apron on or something. So in the photograph, behind her was actually a window, but I made that a door, so it would look like maybe she was coming out of there. And she's in the shadow, so I can't make her white apron too white. So I added blues and more grays to it. And I think seeing the finished paintings, like now I'm trying to put a face in, and it's too short. So then I go back and try to put a neck in. So it's a lot of back and forth and trial and error. That's too light, it should be darker. So I just go back and forth until it looks like a believable figure. It doesn't have to look like anyone in particular, but I want it to look like a person rather than a dog or a cat. But and then I just put a little of that skin tone in there for her arm. And then I mix up a darker, like a violet for the bottom of her apron. And anyone who's taken my classes knows that I make up stories about the people too. I think if I make up stories about them, it makes them more real in my mind.
Yeah.
I don't know about the viewer's mind, but like maybe she's coming out to meet him and she has a little basket of goodies. And he's looking over like, oh, what did I get today? I know it's silly, but keeps
It's
me
fun though. Yeah, yeah.
So then that's her basket of goodies. And rather than like spend a lot of time making it look like a basket, I just want to make it look like she's holding something. But I love the texture of the oil paint, and I just have always responded to texture. Like if I go to like I was fortunate to see the Soroya exhibit when I was in Florida, and some of his textures were unbelievable. Like he had the kids bathing, like laying on the beach, and the highlight on their arm was just a big blob of white paint. And I really react to texture, and I just love it. So sometimes I think I have too much, sometimes I have enough. But anyway, it's something that excites me personally.
I enjoy that too. I love the physical presence of the paint.
Yeah, like if I'm at a museum or a show and the painting is beautiful and I get up close and there's no texture, I get like, oh, no, just get kind of disappointed. But that's me. You know. I'm just kind of trying to imitate feet or shoes that make sense. So I do think I should have like one of the things I might do when this is dry is put more of a shadow behind her on the wall. I think it wouldn't be so bright, but that's something I saw in hindsight that I would like to fix.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Now the foreground. Foregrounds are always my nemesis. I hate foregrounds because it's like, what color is that? I don't know. It's like, what color is macadam in shadow? What color is a stone walk in shadow? It's kind of whatever color you want it to be. So I really struggle with that. And then I decided to put some of the pinkish that was in that distant adobe wall in there to bring your eye back towards it. And I put some teal in her, whatever she's holding too. So that was another way to bring the teal into the painting. But that's how it looks right now. And I don't know if it's finished or not, but I think it is.
It's great. I love having those close-up shots of you using the palette knife. There are a couple comments about that as well, how it's fun to see the detail work you're doing with the knife.
Yeah, thank you. I know that it's really hard to do figures like that, but I've been doing them for a really, really long time, and I enjoy it. So yeah,
Awesome.
if I do a painting without a figure, it's like, oh, it just seems boring to me. But I do some landscapes that have no figures in them. Yes.
It changes it, doesn't it? It's a real different impact, I think, from the viewer's point of view. When you see a human figure in the landscape, it gives you not only a sense of scale, but something to relate to on a real human level. I like that.
Yeah, a lot of the Taos painters that painted the Indians on the horses, they would have like one figure in dark with light behind them, and then they'd always have a couple figures like in the acequia or the ditches that were dark and kind of more in the shade. So it's interesting for me to analyze how they added their figures even back then.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. The way you do it, though, it doesn't become about them. They're part of the story, but it isn't like a portrait or a study of people in the crowd. They become part of the scene, and I think that's really, really fun.
yeah, one of my favorite things about the Soroya exhibit is they had these little like 4x6s, and they were his little studies, and it would be like a whole crowd of people at the beach, and there were just dots and specks and highlights, and it was like it read so perfectly. Like his little, well, all his paintings are amazing, but his little tiny studies really fascinated me.
Oh, that's fantastic. There was a question in here. What do you do for framing?
Well, two things. This one is on a canvas, so I'll probably put it in a floater frame because I've been really enjoying the floater frames for bigger paintings, not small ones. But I like, so I always, so that I started that painting with the acrylic underpainting. So right away I paint the edges like a dark color and I paint the whole thing. So that way when it's dry, I can put it in a floater frame and the edges will already be dark. Because it's no fun, I've done this many times, having a finished painting and then painting the edges and getting paint on the painting. It's like, oh yeah. So when I do the edges, I kind of paint around them a little bit so that that doesn't happen. So if I don't use a floater frame, then I use just a regular frame, for the small ones.
Is that painting medium handy in your studio? Is it somewhere close by you right now? The painting medium, the Cobra painting medium?
Yes. Want me to get it?
Yeah, grab it. And I was going to answer a question. So there was a question, is it best to use linseed oil that's specifically for water mixable paints? So with the Cobra, the answer is yes, absolutely. You could use traditional linseed oil, but that is going to mitigate the water miscibility. So the more of the regular linseed oil you add, the less you'll be able to use water. But there is a linseed oil specifically for Cobra. But Michele was using the painting medium, right?
Yeah, I was trying to show that in my demo, but
Yeah, a
oops.
little over. There we go. There we go. So that's a painting medium. 091 is the number on it. It comes in a 75 ml bottle as well. And
Yeah, I
that's,
got it.
yeah. So that's mostly linseed oil, but it has some other resins in it as well that give it a real nice workability.
And then this one, the glazing medium,
Mm.
oops, I used that for the painting that's right behind me. Just this week when I glazed, I mixed it with a bit of white and blue and glazed it over some of the distant people, and that made them look hazier.
Yeah, the glazing medium is really fun. It's a very fat medium. It's the fattest of all of the Cobra mediums, and it's very self-leveling too. So you get that really nice finished look, almost an old master look if you were to build them up in layers, but it's really nice for finishing. And that's how I would recommend it too. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm looking for people to type in I love Cobra, and I haven't seen anybody yet. So
Uh-oh.
better get somebody in there race to do that so I can give away some paint.
I thought you said somebody did that earlier, right?
No, but I was looking at it, but they were just saying I use Cobra.
Oh,
I love Cobra.
oh, they better change their wording. Yeah.
They're changing their wording. Um, what else do we got for us today on questions? Just lots of great comments on seeing you work with the palette knife. I think for a lot of folks, it's a mystery on how to create certain effects, but there's so much you can do with the palette knife. It's really a wonderful tool to integrate into your process. Whether you make it your only tool or not, I don't think is as important as the fact that you get to play around with it and make a variety of marks. It's fun to experiment with the different types of marks you can
And I
get.
think what I tell people a lot, I was looking for my knife so I could show you, but I can't find it. I thought I brought it over here, but I think one of the tricks is just to hold it lightly. Like if you grab onto it, then you dig into the canvas and it scrapes the paint off. But if you hold it lightly and I lay it like almost parallel to the canvas and I scrape it this way and that way, I'm not like when I did their faces, the knife just had a dab one, and I was pretty much parallel to the canvas. Because if I had it pointing in, it would have scraped the canvas rather than laying it on top. So it's a very light touch. And I think when people are nervous or not used to when they hang on to it too tight. And
That's a great tip. That is a great advice. A touch, it's really about touch in terms, especially painting wet into wet like you're doing.
yeah. So, I mean, I have all the tools laying over here except my palette knife. This is the one Charlie Hunter uses. I use that on my city scenes. This is something I've used on my really big scenes to put buildings in, stuff like that. And then this is a Verado. It's like a rubber thing. And when I'm doing underpaintings, I can scrape out lines and things. And if it's paint and I scrape out, it creates the underneath color. And that's useful. And then this thing,
what is that? Oh, there we go. It's an actual paint scraper.
It's a carbide tip professional artist, like a house painter's
thing.
And I bought this, oh my God, way back when I was married, because I was scraping the varnish off a doorway. But it's super, super sharp. So if I take it outside, I have a table outside, and I usually wear a mask and gloves, and I scrape off the thick paint, and then I sand it, and then I wash it off with Gamsol or something. But this is a really nice tool. I use it a lot.
Yeah. Be fun. Thanks for sharing those. Well, now I've got a bunch of folks who love Cobra. Awesome.
There you go.
There we go. So I'm going to be punching those names into my little selector here. So hold on.
So how do you pick it? Pick them.
I've got a little, it's a little software thing. You just punch everybody's in there and it sorts them and spits one out.
Oh, nice.
Yep. Before I do that, though, I wanted to share your website too. So I'm going to put that in the comments, you guys, so you can go see more of Michele's work and information about what she has coming up. So there, it's going in there right now. And Michele, do you want to announce any upcoming workshops, exhibitions, events?
Yeah. So I have a workshop actually in my studio starting on Wednesday. So I started teaching. I mean, I just started teaching in my studio, so it's going to be every April in my studio teaching more like composition and painting and stuff. And then every September, I have one in September coming up where we're going to go out and paint all my favorite places in Santa Fe. So I'll be doing 2 of those in my studio. And then I'm teaching in France at a chateau with Modern Impressionist magazine in June. This year's is filled, but next year, we just announced the new one for 2026. And then next year I'll be teaching in Florida again. And for events, I guess I'm doing the Telluride plan. I don't do many plein air events anymore because I don't know, I've been doing them for so long and they're very stressful. But I still do the Telluride one because it's just such a beautiful place to be, especially in July when it's super hot in Santa Fe. And it's cool up in the mountains. So I'm doing that one. And can't think of anything else.
So can folks, to find out about upcoming workshops, is that information on your website?
Yeah, there's a workshop button. And I also have some recorded ones. I have one on composition that I sell. They're like 3-hour courses for $125, which I think is a good deal. Yeah. And I'm doing some mentorships with people. So they send me their paintings. And then together we go over it in what's it called? That program I was just talking about.
Oh, which one?
The program on my iPad that I draw onto. That I'm having a scene. Procreate.
Procreate. Yep.
So I do that, and that's been a lot of fun because when you're an artist and you sit at home and paint by yourself all day, it's kind of nice to bring someone in and chat for an hour about their paintings. And the people that have been doing it really like it, so I enjoy doing it too.
You know what I'll do? I will put that in the comments as well. Procreate. It is a fun. You can get it on your phone too.
Oh yeah, I haven't done it.
Or a tablet or a computer. I used to have it. Well, I still have it on my phone, but that's where I used to use it the most. And I could just take pictures of things and then block them out and play around with the composition. Or I would take photos of paintings that I'd done when I was away from the studio. Then I could kind of play around with the color and composition.
Yeah. It's
So
a
I'd
great
have fresh
program.
ideas. Yeah.
I took it on the plane with me when I flew to visit my sister last couple of weeks ago. And I took painting and I scribbled on it and I figured it out. And I designed a couple paintings on the layers. And yeah, it's a great program.
Yeah. It's a great tool in the studio and when you're away from the studio, both for sure.
Yeah. And then I think Jeff you're going to post in there, there's a link so that how I explained and started this painting is I did a demo for the Pastel Society of New Mexico. And they just sent me a link that's on YouTube as of today. So you can click on that and see how I got to the point where I was today when I finished that.
I included that early on. So go back there and look for it. It says link to Michelle's video. And then the link is there. So you can check that out from the comments. So exciting. Lots of great stuff here today. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Well, thanks for having me. And I'm so honored to be an ambassador. I think it's an amazing paint company. And you have a group of an amazing artists that are ambassadors. So I'm very humbled to even be one. So yeah.
Well, I feel the same way with you and all of the ambassadors. You guys are so great, so generous with your time and your knowledge and your expertise. And it's just been a wonderful learning experience for me these years. Absolutely.
Jeff is the guy. He knows, I'm pointing the wrong way. He knows everything about paint and its properties. And we were talking about his shirt. It says El Jefe. That means boss in Spanish. Because I'm learning Spanish out here. And I was like, oh, that means the boss. So yeah. Pretty cool.
There you go. I love it. Yeah. Yeah, I know. My name translates to the boss. I had some good fun with that in Mexico.
Yes, I'm sure.
All right, everybody. We have a winner here. So drum roll is Rich Thomas. You are the winner of today's giveaway of some Cobra paint. So congratulations, Rich. You want to direct message me, DM message me at Royal Talens NA. So hashtag Royal Talens NA. That's our message app, or you can do it through our Facebook page. And then I will get that and reach out to you and we'll get your shipping information and send you the set. And Catherine, I also put our email in there. Rich, you could use that email too if you wanted. That's our information email for Royal Talents North America, and those will get sent to me. We could connect that way as well. So congratulations and thank you everybody for joining us today. Thank you again, Michelle. This is awesome.
Thank you. It was an honor.
Absolutely. So much fun. And I love the way we did the demo today. I might have to start doing more of those. It really worked out really nicely to be able to videotape it and talk about it. So keep that in mind for the future.
Stress off of me instead of doing it.
It is, isn't it? Then you can kind of go, you think of things that you're doing that you might not have thought of when you were actually doing the in person. So that's great. It was a great way to see it. So thank you for putting that together beforehand.
Sure. My pleasure.
You bet. You bet. Next Creator Studio Live, we have another New Mexico resident, Michele Dunaway, is going to be visiting and taking us through some tips on portrait painting. So I'm excited with Rembrandt oils. The date is in May. It's going to be a TBD though. We're shifting some times around. So as soon as I have a final date for that, I'll be posting that for everybody. But hopefully you can join us then as well. We'll kind of switch gears and do some portrait painting with the Rembrandt.
I'll be there.
See you there. Yeah, awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you again, everybody. And thank you, Michelle. And we'll see you next time on the Creator Studio Live.
Okay.